Our passage today is a passage where Jesus is drawn into the wonderful, peaceful world of politics. I'm joking, of course. Politics is anything but wonderful and peaceful often. Uh, but it's a story that I think, especially in today's world, in today's United States of America, where we have so much division, is something that we can really appreciate. A little bit of background going into all of this. The Pharisees obviously are sending their disciples along with some other people to try and catch Jesus. And what they're really trying to do here is they're trying to get Jesus to take a side, to make a statement. Because if he makes a statement one way, then he gets in trouble with one group, and he makes a statement in the other way, he gets in trouble with another group. Specifically, the statement they're trying to get and the sides that they're trying to get him to choose is either between the Jewish people and or the Romans. And so at that time, there was this very kind of deep political division between people who were willing to work with and be with the Romans, to take advantage of kind of the opportunities that their system gave them, and sacrifice, therefore, the power of the Jewish people, the ability for the Jewish people to be independent and free, and the other side, which was saw the Romans as complete invaders, horrible people, and wanted to overthrow them and create a new Jewish state that would go on to be the center of the world. So you have these kind of two factions underneath the surface, and the prophecy of the Messiah actually fell very much in these. The Jewish people were looking for a Messiah at this time because, according to prophecy, this was the time a Messiah was going to arise. And the expectation they had was that this was going to be a Messiah that would do what was being stated right there for supporting the Jewish people, overthrowing the Romans, establishing a new Jewish state that would go on to be, the center of the world. And so Jesus is claiming to be the Messiah, and the Pharisees are trying to catch Jesus, saying directly that he is trying to do that he's trying to overthrow the Romans. Because if he says that he's going to overthrow the Romans, then they can go to the Romans and say, this man is trying to lead a rebellion, you need to arrest him and crucify him. However, if he doesn't, if he refuses in this situation, if he tells them, oh, no, 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 we shouldn't overthrow the Romans, we need to, support them, and and their system isn't all that bad, and all those types of stuff, well, then he's going to become very unpopular with the Jewish people in general. Most of the Jews did not like Roman rule. So he's kind of siding with the powerful in that sort of case. And that is beneficial for the Pharisees as well, because they can then go to the Jews and say, look at Jesus. He's not really a Jew. He's just kind of, he's a Roman sympathizer. We should not pay attention to him. So that's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to get Jesus to basically say, that he is a part of one side or the other. And Jesus immediately sees this, recognizes it, and in saying, render unto Caesar what is Caesar, saying, give to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and give to God the things that are God. He finds this middle road that kind of shoots between, that sort of, prevents him from kind of getting into that trouble. But the thing that really strikes me about all of this, and the thing that really, gets me, is Jesus's reaction to when they present this to him. Because it comes across to me when I read it that Jesus looked at this kind of division and thought it was really silly. And oftentimes, we have these kind of deep rooted divisions over things like politics. It is really very silly. The Roman system had a lot of oppression in it, but it also was a system of extreme stability. It built roads, it did all these other sorts of things, and they were, compared to other empires that had come before them, surprisingly tolerant of certain things. They allowed the Jews, for instance, to worship one god. They didn't require them to worship any other gods. They thought it was weird, but they after fighting a little bit with the Jews about it, they realized, oh, okay, you do you, just don't, rebel against us, and this will all be fine. So for the time, while they were an oppressive empire, they were also a bit more understanding and accepting than other people. Doesn't mean that, again, that they weren't oppressive. I do use the term impressive empire for a good reason, but they weren't as bad as other empires that had come before them, other groups that had subjugated the Jewish people. But on the flip side, yeah, like the Jews have a good point here. Like there's a kind of this almost this expectation that if you're going to support the Romans, you're taking away from what is needed for God, for what it should be given to God. And Jesus here is saying, hey, no, that side is okay as well. And Jesus is really kind of showing, hey, these two sides are not irreconcilable. You can kind of come together and find this kind of middle pathway. And you don't have to, look and say, well, this person sympathizes with the Romans, he's horrible, and this person wants to see the Jews overthrow the Romans, they're horrible. You don't have to do that. You can disagree, but then also say, oh, yeah, there's certain things that both sides have kind of value, have a good point on, and we're going to let things kind of move in a more peaceful fashion moving forward. And I think that's a good lesson. I think that's a lesson that we should really pay attention to, especially today. We're a country that has become very divided politically, and realistically, uh, it's stuff that really isn't that big of a deal, honestly. I think if Jesus was in the sort of the same situation and you sent Republicans and Democrats to him to try to catch him in the same way, he probably would take a similar route, and I think it would be appropriate. A lot of the stuff that we're getting very upset with is not stuff that we should be getting upset with and really fighting over in the way that we are. It's perfectly fine to disagree. We should be disagreeing on certain things. That's actually healthy for a society. At least I believe so. Um, but it doesn't mean that we should have the level of hostility that we have, the level of kind of hate that we have. We should be willing to recognize, where that there is a kind of place that we can kind of come together and sort of a central idea that we can kind of come together on. I don't believe that Jesus ever wants any kind of group of people to be torn apart by things that aren't huge deals necessarily, that aren't irreconcilable differences. In fact, I think Jesus would say that that pretty much everything that we think is an irreconcilable difference really isn't, and that we should be able to disagree on something and not have it come to violence. So what I want you all to take away today is to not let these divisions really come between us, to kind of be willing to find that middle path, to go down it, and embrace each other in our differences, because that is what we're expected from God. That is something that we're expected to do as Christians. We should not be allowing our political affiliation or political beliefs be what dictates how we treat other people. We should be treating them all the same with love, and disagreeing in love, not in sort of hatred and viewing the other side as being terrible people. That is what I would like you all to take away. Do not treat other people as terrible people. Treat them with love, regardless of what they believe. Amen. And now I'd like to invite you all to join me for our last worship song today.